good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Infinite balance, in effect, giving you that energy from the cosmos to your center flows. The sun high, giving off that nice energy. Again, down by the lake of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. True set, everything bliss, everything crisp, and everything like this. You know, even the birds up in the tree flying high with the big smiles. So today, straight to the point of when it comes to my journey and some people's journey watching this is how to start off on this spiritual journey, especially when it comes to the meditations. And there's a few books I highly suggest just to get you started. And it's interesting how each one of these books, they interconnect with each other, even though all the authors are different. When you're going through a spiritual journey like this, when you just see the matrix for what it is, and you know, say, everything isn't from meets the eyes. Everything's a little different, and you find out how little ways how you accidentally manipulated out, not even that word, kind of like bend reality to your whim and not knowing it, and how to magnify that, and just knowing how the 3D works. 3D reality right now. So some books that I recommend you read out, like just put a whole new perspective when you're starting the so-called spiritual journey and you're seeing how things could like turn into the way you want. First book, Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. This is actually the first book me read, the first book that we come across. First book that was actually recommended, not even recommended, someone mentioned his name after seeing him on a YouTube video. Then from then, I came across a book from him called Supernatural. And I got on one of those, audio book sites. So on my phone right now, actually, I have him on it. And from reading that book, it changed my whole perspective on the 3D world and how generally people, mostly the doctors them, are trying to focus you yourself on believing that you could only be healed by outside forces and not from the inner to the outer. And the way how I did this, I don't know, maybe it's from the click, that one we'll call it. If I say anything else, they may put the YouTube channel down, even though it's no big yet. But the click trying to put a mind frame that the only way people can be healed are by doctors and by outside forces, by taking pills, things like that. And when reading this book, that's what actually put me on a new type of epiphany. It was during that times where I think I told in another story, I was generally suffering from migraine headaches from as long as I can remember. Then after reading that and just being optimistic and doing one of them meditations that was on the book, it changed my life forever. And from then on, that's when I started digging in the crates, as I say, to other books, not only by him, but by other authors like him. So that's the first one I recommend. The second one goes way back in the less wise days, from May the Universe bless her light, Dolores Cannon, The Custodian. Now this book I recommend because it goes into a whole bunch of regressions were even popular back then. People thought it was for pseudoscience, not even that, I don't think that word was even coming out then. It was like basically witchcraft. But Dolores Cannon stuck to her ways, did regressions, and found out about past lives and star seeds and people on a contract. Them something that like people just coming to Earth to learn lessons, and that's the origin of that process. Now, again, the reason why that I go into that, because that intertwines with the Supernatural book. You know, that was way back in the 80s, I believe. It interconnects with the Supernatural book because basically they're in a way like the same principle. And you see how back then with the so-called, not even so-called, I believe, beings, light from other star systems coming here, doing their type of meditation, and through regression, finding out, basically, they come here on a contract, as I say. So, those two books. Another book, The Silva Method by Jose Silva. Now, this book also came out, I believe, don't quote me, I believe it was like in the 80s or something like that, maybe early 90s, something like that. But what's good about that book is that only teaches you like meditation, but almost teaches you like a hypnotic state on how to almost hypnotize yourself into meditating abundance for yourself. And I noticed that now in 2024, a whole bunch of other people them are, even though they're saying that it's an original concept to them, the concept goes way back when. And the concepts that they're practicing, when you read Joe Silva's book, you'll see that in a way they're mimicking exactly what he did. And just in my opinion, I think they're taking it from his book and trying to make it their own. Some of them actually do mention that they did get it from the Silva Method, but other people just going about saying how it's an original concept that they thought from themselves, going back into the mountains of Tibet. But the most important thing is they're finding out ways how to manifest their goals, their dreams by meditation, going up in the mind, believing and loving the situation. Now, another book just came out recently by an author named Billy Carson. If you don't know the name, now you know. You can check it. Right now, he's probably the most popular individual right now in 2024. So it'll be hard not to find him. Forbidden Knowledge, Joe Rogan. He's getting interviewed by everybody right now. Again, Billy Carson, and the book is The Emerald Tablets. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this one right now, because in the Emerald Tablets, from the research that he's been doing, and from the little research I've been doing, I'm not even gonna say wish. I'm gonna travel the way how him traveled to get more information. Now the information is so-called old school, going through Google, but not going through the first 10, but going through the first from 30. Now I'll tell you, I'll talk more about that in another video. But for now, just getting my research from them, man. What's interesting about that is how societies later on, after the Emerald Tablets, how they kind of twisted ways to form religion and to have a divide and conquer type of thing. And from taking information from the tablets and just changing it and tweaking it a bit to make people believe in certain instances, certain events. This Emerald Tablets goes really early, and it shows, for instance, real names of individuals like Jesus and the so-called God. And when you read that book, you'll see how even back then society just twisted things into their own realm. And you'll also see how that's also the source of so-called meditation, manifestation. I won't dwell any more into that. You'll have to read that. Again, The Emerald Tablets by Billy Carson. Now, those right there, a few books just to get you started. Right now, I'm against the time. We're in this beautiful city of Toronto, Ontario. I hope everyone over there is having a crisp time. People that are celebrating, well, you know, Pride Day. Happy Pride Day to you. I'm a planetarian, and people may look at me and say, oh, why this guy talk about Pride Day for? But you know, to each their own. The Creator created people for a reason, you know? So from everybody, from the north, south, east, west, stay blessed, blessed, and more blessed.